Hello everyone, and welcome to another cloudy little tutorial. If you want to know how to make the hat from this video, there is a link to the tutorial in the description below. So you can do these veins on this hat or just use it as a tutorial for anything you want to put embroider veins onto. You're going to need red embroidery thread and an embroidery needle and anything that you want to put veins on, like this hat. So my secret to embroidering veins is basically just winging it. As you can see, I went ahead and put a few on here as examples. So yeah, I basically just wing it. I do whatever feels right. Something really important is to have the veins start at one central point, kind of at the base of the eyeball, and then branch out as you get closer to the pupil. And you're just going to want to make it really branchy and you don't want to plan it too much. You want to just kind of go for it. Do whatever feels right. And it'll look more natural that way. So we're just going to put it up through a stitch. You're going to want to put it through one of the stitches so that it locks on. If you want to, you can put it between stitches. I'm just holding this with my hand. You can immediately tie it off on the inside if that's what you're more comfortable with. I just kind of hold it for now. I always work with one hand in the hat and one hand outside of the hat. So right here you can see I'm just putting it between a stitch so that it anchors tight. If you put it in one of the between spaces, then it's going to shift a lot and you're not going to be able to get it as precise as you want it to be. So we're just going to kind of move it. We're going to start with a bigger line here, get it close to that iris color. Again, we're putting it between the stitch so that it locks in, inside of one of the stitches. So you don't want to have to reach into the hat every time. So what we can do instead is go into these little holes that are in between the stitches, not through a stitch, but in a hole in between the stitches. And then just pull it through. Now we can put it back through that same hole and it's just going to pull right on through. It's not going to leave a mark on the outside of the hat. And so that's just an easier way to kind of move around and manipulate our thread. Now you can see I am grabbing it. I'm putting it between a stitch again, into one of the stitches, just to kind of make sure it's locked into a precise place. And then I'm just going under the thread, looping it around my other line that I made, pulling it tight and putting it back through. I'm still holding on to this, by the way, so that it doesn't pull through. But so we have the line that we made picked up. We're just going to pull it tight and we're going to anchor it there. So see, I'm just going back through the same place that I brought my yarn out of before. And now I'm going through an in-between place so that I don't accidentally anchor it. So there we go. We're just pulling it through and see how that gives it that nice little bend there. We're going to do a lot of this just, moving it around. We just want to make a really branchy, really vein look, you want to make it have a lot of branching off points, and you want each one to look different. So there's no exact way to do it. Veins never look perfect and precise. They're very branchy, a little wiggly, You just want to move it around. And so I moved it to what is now in the under position of the thing. So when I fold it over, I want it to go over over top of the thread that I'm already trying to make it look like it's connected to. It's already there. So I want to make sure it goes over it so that it looks connected instead of looking separate. So I'm just going to pull that through again. And that gives us like another little branch. And we're just going to continue on around. And see, we're still, anytime we need to like move our needle to get like a better angle, we're just popping it in the in-between places and then it won't be seen. So you want to make sure you go back through the hole that you came out. If you don't want the yarn to be anchored on the outside of the hat, just make sure you go back through the same hole you came out of and it'll just go back to the inside of the hat so you won't see it on the outside. So now we're just grabbing that branch and just anchoring it down there a little bit, the same way that we did before. You come up through a stitch, you go around whichever thread you're trying to move, and then back through that same hole, and it's just going to pull it down in like that. And that just makes another little branch point. Now, this time I decided to pull it back up through so that I can kind of make another little point. I'm just trying to decide where to place it here, and just going through the center of a stitch so that it locks it in. Sometimes you even want to like go through an actual piece of yarn. Now see, I ended up putting it actually through the hat that time, so now I have to stick my hand in to come back out of the hat. But now I'm just coming up through a stitch, and just picking it up, putting it around my thread that's already down there, just going around there just to move it a little bit, just to give it a little bit of like a kind of zigzag in there so that the line isn't perfectly straight, because like no actual veins are perfectly straight. So we want to give it as much like realism if we want. Now what I'm doing here is I'm coming back through the hole where I first started, where I first came out of at the bottom point there, and I'm making another branch off of that same point. So remember what I said earlier, we want veins to look like they kind of come from a central point at sort of the base or the bottom of the eyeball, and then it's going to branch outwards and spread out as you get closer to the pupil. So I'm just adding another branch there. I'm just trying to get it in the place that I want. Sometimes it can be a little finicky, but I'm just grabbing that piece of thread that we already stuck on there again and just giving it more like more shape. And I mean, that's really all there is to it. I just go around. You see I'm making another little branch right here. You want to do a mix of like small veins and then big branchy veins. And I'm kind of feeling like this looks good here. This is good for this one. So that feels good to me. It looks good. So let's just turn it inside out. And now we're going to look at the base. Now we're going to grab the tail that remember we were holding with our unused hand earlier. So we are just going to tie a knot with our working thread and our tail. So you don't want to leave it too loose, you don't want to leave it too tight. Just make sure that it leaves what you made outside looking the way it's supposed to. You want to pull it just tight enough to where it just kind of gets a little snug right there. So You're going to cross it over, then you're going to make a knot. Now remember, your first knot or two, you got to be careful not to tie it too tight, okay, until it's pretty anchored. So tighten it, make sure it's snug, but not, you know, totally pulling. Then we're going to do a few more knots to really secure it there, make sure it's not going to come loose. The good thing is this is the inside of our project, so you won't be able to see it from the outside. It doesn't matter how messy it looks on the inside because no one's even going to see it. So don't worry about that. Once you feel like your knot is secure, just trim it down there. Don't trim it right up against the knot. Give it just a little bit of extra, but just trim it right there. And yeah, there's our vane. You're going to want to do a variety. You're going to want to do some bigger ones. You're going to want to do some little ones. And just make sure they're really branchy and zigzag and not totally straight. A lot of little like V's there where it branches out. Just give a lot of variety, and that's going to make it look, you know, like natural veins would. Honestly, the best advice I can give for embroidering veins is just wing it. Just go in there and do it. Make it branchy. Make sure they start on one central point on the outside and then they branch out and expand as you get closer to the inside of the eye. And that's it. Just repeat until you're happy with the way your veins look. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. For any questions or suggestions, please leave me a comment. And I hope you subscribe if you'd like some more content like this.